Welcome to Make Things Happen with Diana Pagano. I came from struggle, living life on survival mode, and later found myself living in that same vicious cycle. Life is meant to be so much more than settling. My life changed when I learned the power of your mindset and how it applies to every part of your life. I'm a business leader, speaker, and author. I have made it my life's mission to share all the tools and techniques that changed my life because I know they will for you too. All your hopes and dreams really lie in the how. How are you making things happen? Are you ready to stop dreaming for what could be and turn those dreams into reality? I thought so. Well, get ready to live life on your terms. Welcome to Make Things Happen with Diana Pagano. Today's episode is going to be all about how you make your goals in 2025. We did the previous episode. You saw the goal setting with the vision. Today, we're focused on execution. Everybody's favorite thing. Now you got to do the do. You talk a good game. Now let's get going. Let's start putting the things in motion. Let's start doing the things that we have to do to make things happen, right? That's what we're doing. So in 2025, you have a goal. And if you haven't written it down, then do it right now. Do it today. Do it right now. You can pause this video and do it now because it's so important. In fact, science shows that when you write down your goals, you're feeding it to your subconscious mind. There's like a level of commitment and attachment that this is the goal that you're going to achieve. Write down a goal that's absolutely exciting enough for you to be eager to just make that happen. And write down a goal that you want to accomplish, whether it's in 6 months from now, whether it's in 2025, by the end of the year. Heck, if you want to do a goal that you want to make happen by next year, that's fine. Just write down a goal because we're going to break it down. Even if it's a yearly goal, you're going to break it down. And now that you have your goal, I want you to stop for a minute before we get into some crazy stuff in 2025 and all that you're going to do. I want you to stop and just take a moment to reflect. And if you did this already, fabulous, you're ahead of the game. You can fast forward to the next part. But if you haven't, it's so powerful, you guys. 2024 has gone. You can't go back to it. But the only time that I believe that you should go back, and even if it's just a quick minute, is to reflect. Take a moment to reflect. Not an hour. I don't even think you need to spend 30 minutes. Just reflect on what were the things that went right in 2024? What were the things that went good? If you say nothing went good, are you healthy? Is your family healthy? Do you have friends? Like, there's always something that you can think of, right? Do you still have an income? Do you still have a job? If you don't, I mean, there's always something. You got to find something that went good in 2024. And there's a reason for this, and I'm going to tell you in a moment. But for right now, I want you to reflect in 2024 what went well. And then I want you to take a moment and reflect on what didn't go so well. Maybe it was horrible, but what didn't go so well, and what could you have done differently? And you might say, well, that was out of my hands. It's the economy. It's this. We can always do something different, even if it's somebody externally or something externally that happened to us, right? I always believe that everything is happening for us, not to us. But when you take that shift in perspective, you start to unravel what else is possible. You start to kind of receive answers from the universe, from your God, like whoever you believe in. I believe in God, but if it's the moon or the stars or your higher self, like, it speaks to you. And so when you're not asking the right questions, you're not going to receive the right answers. But when you ask, like, what could I have done differently with the things that didn't go so great? There's so much that you're going to grow. There's so much growth that comes with that. And the lessons, those are priceless. The lessons that you learn from that is absolutely priceless. You can't pay money for a training, right? I heard this thing, and I'm not trying to get into some voodoo stuff, but that we hold such answers to all of our problems. That supposedly God gave us all the answers to everything that we could possibly want. That's how powerful your brain is. But when we're not tapping into the part of our brain that we don't access often, you're never gonna expand your growth of knowledge and information that's just waiting for you to ask. So I truly believe that asking the right questions will empower you to receive, right? Ask and you shall receive. It even says it in the Bible. There's a scripture that says, ask and you shall receive because of your faith. And so I believe and I have faith that when I ask, I get answers. And guess what? You might get an answer you don't like. It's the hard truth. Hard for people to swallow sometimes. You might get an answer that you're like, what the heck is this? But I'm telling you, it's very valuable. So before we get into the execution, all the exciting things we're about to talk about, I want you to reflect if you haven't already. Maybe you did reflect. Maybe you did reflect, but you didn't go deep enough. So just take a moment to reflect on what are the things that went great and why did they go great? Is there anything you could pinpoint? Maybe someone gave you a hand. Maybe you asked for help. Maybe there's somebody external. Maybe it's something internal that you broke a cycle of a bad habit, even if it's just a small habit that you decided to wake up even just 30 minutes earlier. What's something that worked well and why? I'm telling you, very powerful. You don't have to spend an hour doing this. Some people spend an hour. I've spent actually an hour once before. So it doesn't matter, but it doesn't have to be long. Take the time that you need, but it can be as quick as 15-minute exercise that you do. What went right and why, and what went not so great, and what could you have done differently, and what are the lessons that it taught you? And the reason I say that in two different parts, you guys, is because sometimes you already know the lessons that it taught you. Maybe it's obvious, okay, should have, would have, could have, right? Hindsight's always 20/20. But by asking yourself, what could I have done differently? You spark a whole nother level of information. You're no longer thinking, oh, what did I learn from that? Boom, I learned that not to trust my friends. Okay, but you're not asking yourself, what could you have done differently? Make sense? Very different, very different. So very powerful. Once you do that, it's going to give you so much knowledge and information, and you're going to probably use some of that into your execution strategy and how you're going to make those goals in 2025 actually come to fruition. So let's get into just that. So you have a goal, and I want you to put a deadline on it. When do you want to achieve this thing? When do you want to accomplish this goal? And like I said, it could be a shorter goal. I'm going to focus on a longer term goal. For example, I want to make sure that by December of 2025, I've accomplished this goal, whatever it is. And of course, you can do a 6-month goal and you can do a 90-day goal. In fact, I'm really a fan of those goals that are shorter span, but what I like to do and what I encourage you to do is to have a goal that you set for yourself longer term. A year, it could be 2 years, right? I'm focusing on 2025 because I know that you can make big things happen in this year. Whatever you're doing, whatever industry you're in, whatever business you're in, if you're an entrepreneur or you work for somebody else and you want that promotion, I know in my heart of hearts that there is nothing you cannot accomplish this year. Now, if you want to say, I want to fly to the moon and do all these crazy things, well, it's got to be realistic, right? And I do believe that you could make a goal that in May of 2025, you're going to achieve. So I don't want you getting caught up with having to do a yearly goal, because even if you did a 6-month goal and said, by July, I want to move out of my 2-bedroom apartment into that 4-bedroom house, you can make it happen this summer. It doesn't have to wait until December, right? I'm just using that as almost like a metaphor, like, hey, what do you want to achieve by the end of the year? If you achieve it by the summer, fabulous. Keep going. Don't just stop and say, I accomplished my goal, because I believe when we stop, we die. You got to keep going. Humans have to progress. You have to keep the journey alive. It's that you're never going to get to the end, because if you do feel that this is what you accomplished and that's it for me, I don't believe that we were meant to just survive life and just live it without purpose. You got to have a purposeful driven life that you're living and breathing, and you're marching towards progress, towards progression, something that you're doing, something that you're working towards. Guys, it's not always the goal that you achieve. It's not always that thing. It's about you doing the thing that you're looking to achieve. It's about the journey. It's about what you're doing every day, the experiences that you're going through, the people that you might meet, all that it's building you to be. That right there is, I believe, is true fulfillment. When you're living life with a purpose and you're marching towards something, and you know that you're going towards something. But when you don't know that you're going towards something, that's where stagnation comes in. And that's where you feel like something's missing. Or you might feel stuck, like you don't know what to do, you don't know where you're going. Well, no kidding, because there's no progress. There's no progression. And you get to decide what progress you want. If you say, I'll be happy if I get to here in July, right? I would encourage you to say, okay, is that just mediocre? Are you playing it safe? Like, why can't you do that big thing that lights your heart on fire, whatever that is? If it's a dream to go on that vacation, why can't you have it? You can. Why does it have to be a 5-year goal? Why not a 1-year goal, right? So I'm always challenging people around me when we've done goal, when I've set my team down to do goals and goal setting, or even clients that I've coached, about don't play it safe just because you think that this is what you can do. I have this amount of money, so this is all I can do. Right? Anything can happen. Life happens that way. When we open up the window of what's possible and you start looking towards a direction, your subconscious mind has no choice but to go towards that target. It goes towards the beating of your drum. That's the reality. So if you're beating, the beating of your drum is about uncertainty. The beating of your drum is about, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to get this done. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough people, whatever it is, right? I don't have enough opportunity. I don't have enough sales. Then that's what life will bring you. The beating of your drum, you got to pay attention to that. You have to, and I cannot talk about goals with execution without talking about this, because it very much goes hand in hand. How you feel about a situation, about your life, about your goals, about this month, about this year, really determines the kind of life you're going to have. Oftentimes I'm like, tell me what's going on in your life. Tell me what's happening. I can tell you exactly the kind of year you're going to have. And you're probably not going to be happy because they're just sitting there in their negative banter. They could be happy people. I have seen really happy people on the outside laughing, super happy-go-lucky. And what the heck are they laughing about? Like, they're so happy on the outside, but in reality, they have a negative dialogue because they don't feel that they're good enough to get out of their mom's apartment. They don't feel good enough or capable enough because this has been their reality for so long, right? Life will bring you what you say it's going to bring you. I know it sounds corny and you might think this is weird. Just start telling yourself that you are worth so much more. Start telling yourself that the right opportunities are starting to open for me and the wrong ones will be closing for me, right? Acknowledge that when a door closes, it's not meant for me. Sounds silly, maybe. I truly believe that. So when you start putting yourself in a mindset of, I'm going to have faith that when I knock on 5 doors, there's going to be someone that's going to answer. And guess what? It may not be the 5 doors you're knocking on over here. It might come from this direction. You'll be like, whoa, I was knocking on these doors. No one was answering me. All of a sudden, an opportunity comes out of left field. Totally different place. That's how life works. And I truly believe that when you're doing the do, you're planting your seeds, you're knocking on the doors, you're showing up for your goals that you want to achieve, life will take care of you. God will take care of you. I know that. I've seen it firsthand. And I remember going like crazy. One minute I'd be consistent and next minute I wouldn't be, and it would show up. But when I was, and when you're planting those seeds and you feel like you want to give up or it doesn't work, all of a sudden you keep going, you say, screw it. There's this thing I'm supposed to keep going, right? It's testing you because there's always going to be the part of our brain that we're so wired. This is how we were born, to look for what can go wrong. There's that part of your brain that's always going to test you, attempting to get you to play it safe because it's supposed to keep you safe. You're not meant to do that thing. You're not meant to do this other thing. You're going to get rejected. You're going to fail, right? There's always that thing. And as long as you're aware that that's supposed to happen in my journey, as long as you're aware that that might happen, and that's part of testing you, how bad do you want this, right? How bad do you want this? It's part of just testing that. And when you know that up front, that, hey, I might feel a little nervous, I might feel scared, it's all good. And I've said this before, I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I'll probably continue to repeat myself because I'm so passionate. I know that the majority of the reasons that only 8% of people actually make their goals is because it's easier to give up. It's easier to give up. It's harder to stick with it. It's harder to face the rejection. It's not easy. It hurts your soul when someone tells you no, right? I've said that all the time. I've been in sales my entire life, right? And I realized that, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose when you keep going? You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Look at your goal, whatever it is. I'm going to have an example. Maybe I'll have 2 or 3 examples. But let's pretend that you want to move out of your 2-bedroom apartment and you want to buy that house. Okay, so you want to have a home October of 2025, for example. What would need to happen for you to be able to buy that house? Well, I have a real estate background, so it's easy. I can tell you exactly what needs to happen. You need to have a down payment, right? Depends what your, financial situation is, but you need a down payment. Let's just say $100,000 you need for a down payment for the house. You need to obviously be qualified, the credit. So you got to look at what would need to happen for me to be able to buy this house by October, right? And so then you look at your finances and you're like, okay, well, what am I making? How can I make more money? Or what's the situation that what do you need to do? What do you need to do consistently to make that happen? If you're in sales, my favorite thing in the world, then you know that your destiny is really in your hands of how much you can make. So that's what I love about sales. I love about, you're as an entrepreneur, there's no ceiling of what you can make. What would need to happen? What are the actions that you need to take to make sure that you can make that a reality? So I would break that down into quarterly, so even monthly, so that you're able to say, okay, what action do I have to take in February and March and April, and maybe even the actions that you've already taken in January? Like, what are those things that you have to do? If you want to have a certain financial stability, maybe your business, maybe you want to hire another employee, how much money would you have to make? How much money does your business have to make in order to achieve that? Right? And so if you're talking in sales, for example, you're talking to 5 customers a week, why not talk to 10 customers a week? You're able to really reflect on your results, whatever it is that you're doing. I don't care what business you're in. I'm just going to talk about sales because that's what I've been doing my whole life. I've been in sales. And the way that I always see it, and even tell my sales team when they say, how do I get more sales? I'm like, you want to get more sales? Talk to more customers. It's that simple. Put yourself out there. Maybe you have a business that you want to put yourself out there, but you're just sending email campaigns. Social media is like the place to be. You're selling something, put yourself out there. Get yourself on social media. You think it's easy? For me, even when I go on video, there's times I break down, I'm like tearing up. You think I want to do that? But you know what? When you're so focused on who you are and so passionate about what you're doing, none of it matters. People might talk, they might have an opinion. Who cares? Let them have a freaking opinion about you. What matters is you're doing you and you're putting yourself out there. So, right? So if you're in sales or an entrepreneur trying to get your business out there, I would say, okay, one of the things that what do you have to do to be successful? Whether you want to buy that house, that example I gave you, or you want to have a certain amount of money by August of 2025, or you want to be able to go on vacation, maybe to Fiji. Oh my gosh, I want to go to Fiji. Maybe that'll be one of my goals. You want to go to Fiji this year, right? That's going to be a lot of money. How much do you have to make? Well, I make XYZ for my bills. I get this much extra. Well, how much extra do you need to make? How many more people can you talk to? How many more things could you sell, right? It all comes down to numbers. It's all numbers based. Like, I talk to 5 people a day. Okay, well, can you talk to 10 people a day? Whatever that looks like. You know what results you've gotten in 2024. You should know, and if you haven't, you need to track your activity. For me, I have X amount of speaking engagements, maybe I have X amount of videos that I do. So being able to break that down and saying, okay, well, I did 10 videos in 2 weeks last year, for example, just an example, and I was able to push out a lot of content, and that was overwhelming. But what do I need to do consistently to ensure that I have X amount of content being pushed out on social media? So, right, and you just organize yourself, but you got to have a quarterly and a monthly target, because if you're doing a 6-month goal, it doesn't matter. You still want to see where you're at every single month. If it's a yearly goal, you still want to see where you're at every month. And I encourage you even to break it down by week. What are you going to do to make your goal a reality? What are some of the things that you need to do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis? So, right, to make that goal a reality. So if you want to get out of debt, how much are you having to put every month, every week, or every 2 weeks, depends on how often you get paid, towards getting yourself out of debt? What does that look like? What are some of the solutions? Maybe I have to get a second gig. Maybe you have to do something on the weekend to carve out some additional income to pay off that debt. Whatever that is, you got to come up with a plan of action. You can't get to your goals without having a plan. And don't worry about all the things that might come into play and, oh, well, I'm going to need X amount. There's no way I'm going to make that money. Write down the plan. Let's just see what the plan looks like. If you could make it a reality, what plan would you put out for yourself? Like, what would you have to do? Who could you involve in your journey? Who can maybe support you? Oftentimes we want to do everything ourselves. Oftentimes you don't have to. You don't have to do everything yourself. If you look at the whole plan and you're like, okay, I need to talk to this person, I need to talk to this person by March, I need to be able to have this contact, whatever that is, start asking, start calling. How many people are you going to call to ask for support? Maybe some of your contacts can help you. Maybe you're in a business where referrals is huge for you. And maybe last year you didn't call many referrals. Well, what about this year? Could you call and ask for referrals? Could you call your past clients? Whatever business you're in, could you call past clients and say, hey, I'm calling to thank you for your business and to see if anyone you can think of that would benefit from what I do? It sounds so simple, right? But you don't even know what that brings, what that can do. You know what you need to do for your business more than I do. I don't know you, right? Unless you put comments, I can maybe chime in. But like, you know what you do for your business, and you know what you need to do to get more sales or to get more business or whatever it is that you're doing. I don't know your business, but I know that you know what you need to do to get more. And so I encourage you to really look at what are the things that you have to do. Do you need to call more people? Set a goal, set a target. And not only are you setting yourself a goal for a deadline date, whether it's like, hey, I'd like to buy that house in October, or I'd like to get out of debt, or by July, I'd like to be able to go to Fiji, whatever that goal is, right? And then you break it down. Okay, so now starting now, what can I do every day, every week to make sure that that goal happens? You know what those are. And if you don't, I encourage you to ask for support, research. There's so much information on the internet, right? And now you have a plan. You have a plan. And I wouldn't go from having 0 tasks to like every day you're going to do 5 things. I wouldn't do that, right? Because the chances of you doing 5 things a day when you're doing maybe 1 or 2 a day now is probably not going to cut it. So you want to start somewhere. And it's okay. You can always go higher. But you want to start somewhere. Like, what can I do every week that is going to make an impact where I want to be? So if you want to get super knowledgeable about, I don't know, quantum physics, for example, which is something I'm so obsessed with, then how many books are you going to read on quantum physics, right? If you want to be a master at something, then you got to reverse engineer the sucker and say, what would I have to do? I don't know anything about this. Well, do you want to learn? Or is this something you could outsource? Are you just someone that's so controlling you have to do it all? Right? I've been guilty of that. And like, no, I can outsource this because time is money and your time is valuable. So what are you doing that you could outsource, even if you have to pay someone? Because think about your time and all that it takes you to do something. Could you outsource that? And if not, you're like, this is part of me. This is part of my brand. Maybe it's your business, whatever it is that you actually need to become better at. Then what can you do to become better at that thing? Do you need to take a course? Do you need to read more books? Could you finish a book every quarter? And then by the end of the year, you're like this expert wizard and you have this YouTube channel because you're like, hey, I was that person that thought this was foreign and look at me now, right? So you know what you need to do. You know exactly what you need to do and what else is possible. And even if you think that, okay, I'm stuck, I know what I need to do, but I kind of don't know what I need to do, ask. And you're probably wondering, ask who? Ask the universe. Ask yourself. Ask out loud. Who can I call and ask for help? Who can I reach out to? Because I feel stuck in this little area of my business. Sounds silly, like, okay, damn. Yes. You don't often ask. Ask the questions. And I'm telling you, when I'm sitting there, sometimes I'm driving and I just ask. I ask for something. And then all of a sudden, it just comes to me. An answer, and I get inspired. It's that little voice, it's your instinct talking to you, right? You'd be so surprised because when you ask, you shall receive, versus saying to yourself, I'm never going to figure this out. This isn't for me, or everything goes wrong, or when it rains in port, like all this banter, that doesn't even serve you. In fact, it's self-debilitating you. Right? It's like you're self-sabotaging yourself. Man, sometimes it feels good to just freaking complain to yourself, doesn't it? Sometimes when you're just like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, stop. Give yourself a 30-second bitching session and move the heck on. Because I'm telling you that it's not going to serve you. And when you're doing, okay, what do I have to do every single month? You got to break it down. If it's a 30-day goal, well, sure. But if it's a 6-month goal or a year goal, then break it down and say, what do I have to do every month? And then I would encourage you every single week is so powerful. You know why? Because on Monday, what you do on a Monday, you say, okay, what do I want to accomplish this week? What do I want to accomplish this week? And then on Fridays, you look back at your week and you're like, okay, what went right about the week? What didn't go right about the week? It's all reflection so that you can see and hold yourself accountable. And sometimes you're like, okay, those 2 things didn't really need to happen this week, but they're going to be moved over to next week. And as long as you know that, it's all cool. It's all good. Oftentimes, right? Like I'm a big, I prioritize all the time in my head, all the time. And I'm moving things around. It's like a burner that I have. I've talked about my burner and I have things in the front burner, the middle burner, the back burner. And sometimes I'm moving things in the front burner when in reality, it belongs in the middle burner because I don't have to get it done this week or this month, but I wanted to. So there's going to be some of that happening. But once you know what you need to do, put deadlines on those tasks. Like, I'm going to do this thing by Wednesday. And then Wednesday happens. And if something happens that you couldn't do it by Wednesday, give yourself a task that by Thursday. I know it sounds really in the weeds, you guys, but I'm telling you, I didn't do that before. I was just shooting by the hip and doing whatever. But once I started to put some paper to action and giving myself little mini deadlines, it allowed me to have clarity and keep me on track. Keep you on track. And even if you get an accountability partner, like I'm, grateful that I have a person on my team that we kind of go through that and we look at what are we all doing? Like what tasks do you have? What do I have to get done? What's our deadlines? And that's helpful. But even if you don't have anybody, maybe you could find an accountability partner. It's very, very powerful. And then you can share it with each other. So make a goal, break it down, start putting an action plan together, and start giving yourself deadlines. And here are some things that I will say. When you're able to reflect every week, if that's too much, at least do it every other week, even every month, because if it's a yearly goal, because now you're able to have that, I'm telling you, that reflection is so huge when you're able to see what are the things that I did well. What are the habits too? Sometimes we slack because we have bad habits. Right? So when you're reflecting, you want to look at the habits. What are some of the habits that are working for me? And what are some of the habits that I have to let go of? Whether it's your health, maybe you have a goal with your health and you're eating or drinking too much coffee with like creamer. I have my coffee with creamer once a day, but I know some people are having like 5 cups a day with creamer. I'm like, man, what's that doing for you? Especially if you have a little bit of sugar in there, right? And so you know what that is. I'm just saying that reflection is so key, and you got to reflect, not a year later when you get to your goals and you're like, I didn't make it, now I'm going to reflect. No, keep it going. Commit, you guys, commit to reflection, reviewing your week on what you're going to accomplish. And if you look at Friday and you get a chance to look at what went right of your week and what could you have done differently, I'm telling you, it's so powerful. You stick to that, you are going to be unstoppable, completely unstoppable, because that's going to propel you forward. That's going to do the thing that most people don't do, right? And you're going to be able to give yourself credit where it's due. Like, hey, what went right? That's amazing. Treat yourself. I don't know what a treat would be for you if you just, go out to dinner with a friend because you want to celebrate that you did the thing that you always thought was hard, right? Maybe you overcame a challenge. Maybe the habit that you said bye to, you never thought you could do. You never thought you could do, right? Celebrate those. I'm telling you, when you celebrate the smallest of little mini victories because you did something different, you get so much momentum. And remember, I told you, life will give you based on the beating of your drum. At least I do this because the beating of your heart, but like the beating of your drum is going to be so impactful. And when you're giving yourself that credit, when you're giving yourself the celebration, that alone, I think it's very aligned with gratitude, because when you feel grateful and you're celebrating yourself, you're bringing it to life. You're bringing attention to it, right? And it's a vibrational energy that comes with that. And all of a sudden, all these things start happening. And you're just like, whoa, right? Not saying that sometimes you're not going to fall on your face and be like, holy crap. You're allowed to say, holy crap. You're allowed to have a moment of like, what in the heck is this BS? But then snap out of it. You cannot stay there, because that will have a rippling effect in the rest of your day, the rest of your week, potentially the rest of your year, if you allow that, right? So know up front that you might feel a little discouraged during your journey. It's supposed to happen. It might happen, and that's okay. You're going to get back on track, and you're going to focus on your target and where you're headed. And you're going to know that if you fall down, you have 30 seconds to have your little session and move on. So number 1 is you're going to have a goal, and you're going to break it down into bite sizes until you get down. In my opinion, if you can do this, if you break it down until you get to the weekly. So if it's a 6-month goal, break it down by month, and then break it down by week. Even if it's a yearly goal. You might have 2 goals, and that's okay. I wouldn't do more than 2 or 3 goals for the year so that you can really focus on those, at least until you knock one of them down. If you make a goal and you're like, I accomplished it in the summer, perfect. Add another one that you want to accomplish before the end of the year. Number 2, you're going to reflect on what went right, what went wrong, whether it's every week or every month, but you're going to reflect. And you're going to celebrate your victories. You're going to give yourself that credit that you need. If something went right, celebrate it, small as it is. Celebrate it. And if something went wrong, don't beat yourself up about it. There's always tomorrow. There's always next week. What happens is if something happens and it knocks you down, as long as you don't stay down, some people don't get back up because they get discouraged. And then they move on with life and they just accept it as like, okay, guess it's just going to have to be this stagnation for me, right? So don't allow that to happen. Don't let that narrative be your reality. It doesn't matter what happens. If you have to start all over in the middle of the year, who cares? Keep going. Number 3 is, what are the habits that you need to say bye to? What are the habits that are getting in your way from accomplishing the things that you want? When you do this reflection, step number 2, you're going to be able to see, what are the habits? What went wrong and why? Oh, I have this habit of doing this thing. And right, like what is that? Number 3 is definitely habits. You want to be able to look at, what are some of the habits that I need to get rid of? What are some of the habits I need to say hello to? Bring them in your journey. You know what those habits are that is going to make a difference. And when you try something different, like I said before, your subconscious is going to try to lure you back and keep you safe and say, what are you doing? So make sure you come on strong. Add some habits. Number 3 is, add some habits that's going to propel you forward. Even if you feel like they're a little uncomfortable and a little challenging, I'm telling you, when you do that, you're going to notice a difference. And definitely get rid of some habits that are not serving you. Once you get rid of the clutter, and maybe even it's not just the habits you're getting rid of, you're getting rid of anything and everything that is getting in your way. Any toxic relationships or friendships that are just not serving you, right? You got to pay attention to that. And the 4th thing is, you got to work on your mindset as an absolute daily grind. It's a daily grind to make sure you're maintaining a positive mindset, that you are in control of your thoughts. When something attempts to not go your way, that you stay focused on the target and you have a strong, resilient mindset, right? I had an episode on grit, and let me tell you, you gotta have your grit mindset that is gonna propel you forward. When times get tough, when things don't go your way, when somebody says no, when it seems like you can't keep going, I'm telling you, yes, you can. It's called grit. And when you come in your journey and bring that in your toolkit, that's a strong mindset that, hey, many people had challenges. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. Start seeing a better way. That's your mindset. You got to do something. Don't wait until something happens, right? If you are feeding yourself to stay motivated and to just have that visualization of it getting better, visualize yourself doing the work every single week, doing the thing that maybe you haven't been doing, but you're now committed to doing the thing, right? Do that. And I'm telling you, every single day, if you can do something to feed your mind with something positive, if it's a chapter in a book, if it's a podcast like Make Things Happen with Diana Pagano, or maybe another podcast that inspires you, and you just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day, whatever you can do. Because I'm telling you, when you feed your mind every day with something that makes you feel empowered or inspires you, it's going to be a little harder to get you off track. So don't wait until something happens to then go get inspired. Feed yourself every day. I'm telling you, that's number 4. It is so powerful. Number 5 is, I'm really big with making sure that you're able to see the outcome and that you continue visualizing your outcome. And I mentioned that a little bit on some of these steps, like number 4, but visualizing comes with your vision board. I did have an episode on vision boards, and you're going to see that at some point. But let me tell you, when you're able to put your dreams on a board that you get to see every day, put it somewhere that you know that you're going to spend most of your time in. And I'm telling you, just that alone and all the steps that you're doing over here, and then you see it. Vision board is so amazing. If you Google it, there's so many great things out there. And I'm going to have an episode very soon on that. And I have a really special surprise coming your way by next month in February. That is going to be an extension of what I just said number 5 was, because I'm telling you, I've done this my entire life. I've done it with my teams, and it is so powerful. I look at vision boards that I still have from like previous years, and I'm able to see things that I manifested. You might think it's a little weird. Maybe you've done it, great, and then you believe in it. But if you haven't, I encourage you to just try it. It's super cool, and it's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. If you haven't done it, when you do it, it's mind-blowing, because then you say, is this a coincidence? Did this really happen? And there's so much more that goes into vision boards. And like I said, I don't want to give away too much, but I cannot wait to have this surprise for you. And it's going to be in February, and it's going to be an expansion of vision boards, and it's so exciting. So just mark that, okay? Pin that, but make sure that that's part of your journey in 2025, that you're going to commit to doing a vision board. It is very, very impactful. So if you're laughing, you think this is weird, Do it. I dare you to do it and say, Diana's crazy, but I'm going to do this thing. And you won't be laughing. You might be laughing, wait all the way to the bank, but you will. Okay. So that's it for this episode. One last bonus that I want to tell you is please write down on paper that you are committed. After you make your goal, after you write down your action plan, your plan of action, and all the things that we talked about, that you're going to sign that sucker on the bottom. Sounds corny. No one needs to see it but you. Write it down. I, put your name, I, Diana Pagano, am committed to making these goals a reality in 2025. Sign it with your name. Okay? And I want you to keep it. And I want you to look at that as often as you can. If you're embarrassed, maybe if someone's around, put it in a drawer, but open the drawer every day and look at it, okay? I'm telling you, you're going to make big things happen in 2025. And we're going to talk about so much more things about making these goals and execution a reality. It's not just on today's episode. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for tuning in on this episode of Make Things Happen with Diana Pagano. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you've done anything that has been helpful for you to achieve your goals, put down your comments below. And if there's something that you got inspired from today's episode that you're now going to do, love to hear your comment as well. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.